Does any of what we saw today help the president and the Republican Party keep the House?
Katie, the interesting thing is the question you posed at the beginning, right? Which is, why did he feel the need to do this? Why did he feel the need to go out there and speak for nearly 2 hours about what he sees are his accomplishments? And I think the inarguable fact is that he feels that he must, or Republicans up here certainly do, see the polling of Republicans slipping in a number of key areas and are getting increasingly concerned. And again, I'm not speaking about what they feel in the White House, but I could tell you definitively what they feel up here. And they are getting concerned about what will happen in November, whether their economic message is resonating, whether the fact that they have not been able to get a deal on health care or a whole host of other economic measures, whether any of that will impact them in November. And I think what the president did, I think the communications challenge for him here is he goes up there and he talks about his perceived successes on the economy and then goes on along a side about Venezuela, about NATO, about perhaps invading Greenland or what he might do in Greenland and things like that. And I just think my gut tells me, and I don't think it's a far leap, is that if people are worried about the cost of goods and the job situation and whatever else they're worried about at home, that they're going to care about whether the Arctic is protected from, whether Greenland and the Arctic is protected from a potential Russian or Chinese invasion. I just think that is the inarguable fact. And you see, Katie, more than ever up here, Republicans are willing to split with the president on key issues, not only on foreign policy and defense, but on a whole host of other policies. I mean, they're about to pass a major spending bill with Democrats, a major bipartisan spending bill, something that would have been unthinkable in a previous Trump era, especially with the trifecta of governing. So it's all very interesting to me why he, again, felt that need to go out there and talk for 2 hours.
He said he has bad PR people, and we know that he believes he's his best PR person. He's the best pitch man.
And perhaps that's true, Katie. Maybe that is true.
100%. He's the one that got elected. Yeah. But one more to you, and I got to get to Jared Bernstein really quickly, so hopefully you can make this short. Is the Greenland stuff, is it going to break the Republican Party?
Yes, it already is. I'll say this, Katie, and I'll say it very, very succinctly. If the president puts soldiers, it takes Greenland by force in any way, or if he seeks some sort of agreement to get however many billions of dollars it will take to buy Greenland on the off chance of either of those things happening, or maybe the real chance, Congress, there's not going to be 60 votes in the Senate for either of those propositions. And that is going to be a major fight in the Republican Party, where many of the leaders have been twisting themselves in pretzels over Trump's desire to occupy, control, and purchase Greenland.
All right. Jake, thanks so much. Jared Bernstein is with us, policy advisor to Joe Biden, former chief economist and economic policy advisor, I should say. Jared, thanks for sticking around and watching that. Donald Trump is trying to use his tariff cudgel. He's threatening Europe over and over again. Does this make anything cheaper here at home?
No, it makes it more expensive. I mean, tariffs are a tax on imports, and that tax is passed through to businesses and consumers. A recent study that's getting a lot of attention, very well done piece of work with some new inputs that we haven't had in some prior research, found that 96% of the tariffs are passed through to American businesses and consumers. But let's do a little bit of a fact check. Let's add some numbers to this. I was listening to the president, and he said that groceries are cheaper now. Well, in fact, the month before he took office, grocery inflation was 1.8%. Last month, grocery inflation was 2.4%. So that's a 0.6% increase in grocery inflation. Overall inflation, 2.7%, just about where it was when he took office. So look, I think his model of convincing his followers that reality is what he tells them it is works on a lot of different issues. It probably works on foreign policy. Maybe it even works on Greenland. It doesn't work on affordability. It doesn't work on prices because they know which way is up when it comes to their groceries, their healthcare, their housing, and so on. And that's why he's getting creamed on this issue. And it's not a matter of presentation or him going up to the podium. It's a reality that people experience on a daily basis.
Yeah. All right, Jared, thanks so much for joining us. I know 3:40 was your hard out. We just made it on time. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right. We got Aaron David Miller, Elise Labott, and Michael Hirsch with us. Elise, you mentioned something while we were watching the president about what you think is going to happen when he shows up in Davos. Give it to us for a baseline, and then we'll chew it over.
I think he's setting himself up for a deal on Greenland that is not ownership, but there's been some talk about this free association, which isn't ownership, but kind of is a fig leaf to give the U.S. the visual free reign that it already has. And we've talked about that. He's listening to these world leaders. He's listening to what Jake is talking about with the Republicans. He knows that he could be boxing himself in, but he also wants to claim victory. He said, you'll see how far I'm going to go. But then he also mentioned, look at what I did with NATO. They didn't want to talk about the 2%, but now they gave 5%. I think they're going to find a face-saving way to let him show that he's paying more attention to the Arctic and the U.S. is the big man there. But I think this will, I think he'll come back from Davos with some kind of deal.
Michael, what do you think of that?
I'm just predicting. I'll come back and say if I'm wrong.
I would tend to agree with what Elise just said. Yes, if you listen to his remarks, he danced around the question of how far he would go. He said, you'll see. And then, of course, there were many questions that went between that and the next question on Greenland. But when he was asked about NATO, as Elise suggested, he said that he was happy with what he had done with NATO. He avoided the question of whether he might leave NATO. And I do think at this point, given all the pushback he's getting, both from Europeans and Republicans on the Hill, he'll find a way to achieve a face-saving deal of some kind that will fall short of invasion, which is the thing that obviously has horrified these European leaders.
If this is a version, Aaron, of Taco, Trump always chickens out, and he goes to Davos and he takes this off-ramp, does that make things better with our allies? Does he still get happy, clappy texts from Macron and from Mark Rutte and all of his other so-called friends in Europe?
I mean, I'd say two things here, Katie. Number one, I think this is a lose-lose situation. I won't say for Trump and our allies, but I'll say for America and our allies. The amount of dissension, the absence of credibility, the unpredictability, even if the Greenland issue gets fixed. I'm not entirely sure it's going to get fixed quickly. He's going to have a hard time coming off the ownership proposition. But the wreckage that he's leaving behind is going to have serious impact on whether our allies are going to trust us. And I guarantee you, President Xi and Putin are popping the champagne corks now because they understand without doing anything, they are creating tremendous dissension within the alliance. And that is one of Vladimir Putin's cardinal and most important goals.